Oh, welcome into the Russ Joy Show. I'm Russ Joy. Figure that out because you're smart. It's also the name of the show. Hello. Welcome in. It's a marvelous Monday. I hope you're having a great Monday. I hope your day after the Super Bowl has been absolutely sensational in every possible way. But if we're being honest here, I'm not sure how sensational anybody's day is going today, because if you are a fan of your team, your town, your Philadelphia Eagles, you may have watched last night's game, Super Bowl 60, the not-so-Super Bowl. The not-so-Super Bowl. Not very super at all. You might have watched that game and said to yourself, man, oh man, oh man, if only we had a semi-competent offensive coordinator this year, that could have been an Eagles repeat. Listen, I will make no excuses, and I will certainly push back on anybody who wants to argue the opposite, but that is part of the fun of doing the show. There, to me, is no doubt in my mind that the Eagles had the talent to be able to beat that Patriots team. I mean, if we kind of run down the entire NFC, I think that not only would the Seahawks have won, I think the Eagles could have beaten that Patriots team. I think that the Packers could have beaten that team. I think that the Rams could have beaten that team. The Bears could have beaten that team. That New England Patriots team was an absolute fraud. And I listened today to some people kind of throwing out this idea, and a couple of analysts at the end of last week who were saying, hey, you know what, though? You have to give the Patriots a lot of credit. They've gone up against a lot of really good defenses, and so, you know, it's not fair to say that the Patriots were kind of a fluky representative of the AFC, but, like, let's be real honest here, right? They took on a Chargers team that only mustered 3 points in the wild card round. They beat a team that, listen, I like C.J. Stroud and I like the Texans, but they're not exactly a playoff experienced team, and I get it. You know, Patriots don't exactly have a wily vet at quarterback, but, like, that Texans team kind of folded. And then they beat the Broncos in Denver on a snowy day, right? They beat the Broncos, but a Broncos team that's without Bo Nix, who fractured his ankle or whatever on the next to last play of the game in the divisional round. So, like, you didn't beat a fully healthy Broncos team, and it was like blizzard conditions, and, you know, Sean Payton's hubris got the best of him. But, like, that to me was not a tough path. I mean, if you think about it, right? The Patriots didn't have to go up against peak Patrick Mahomes. They didn't have to go up against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. They didn't have to face Josh Allen and the Bills, make whatever jokes you want. They didn't have to go up against, and as much as I'm not a big believer, they didn't have to go up against Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Like, it was essentially a very simple, straightforward path in the AFC for the Patriots, and they got exposed. I mean, Sunday's game, I have to tell you, and you can let me know in the comments how you feel about it, but, like, I was not excited for the Super Bowl. Legitimately. Like, this is the first year I can remember in a long time where I was not jazzed up for either side of the Super Bowl. As much as I don't like the Patriots, it's not the Bill Belichick and Tom Brady Patriots. I actually think Mike Vrabel's kind of likable. I don't hate the Patriots as currently constituted. I don't like them. And they're a Boston-adjacent team, so I certainly don't like them. But, like, I didn't despise them. I wasn't rooting against another dynasty. And then on the other side, like, I didn't love or hate Seattle. I mean, push comes to shove, I would have taken the Seahawks, and I thought the Seahawks were going to win pretty comfortably, and they did. But, like, you know, it's a good story for Sam Darnold when you think about, like, how he started his career with the Jets and how it looked like he was never going to amount to anything. And that's a guy who, like, figured out a way to kind of pick himself back up, dust himself off, played for Carolina, he had a year, right, with the 49ers, played for Minnesota. He was a guy who figured out a way to rehabilitate his career. And I have to say, like, credit to Sam Darnold. Like, there you go. Like, there's a guy who I don't think 4 years ago, 5 years ago, even like 3 years ago, anyone would have thought could have been a Super Bowl winning quarterback. But the thing is that, like, Seattle wasn't a fluke. Again, were they the best team in football this year? I don't know. I guess it depends on how you view it. I think that there's a case to be made that the Rams might have been as good or a better team. If the Eagles had a healthy offensive line and a not dipshit as offensive coordinator, I think that the Eagles could have really given Seattle a run. I don't know if they would have for sure made it to the Super Bowl. But those are two big ifs. If they had had health along the offensive line, and hell, we're talking about it on Friday that there were rumors Landon Dickerson might retire, Lane Johnson might retire. It would be overly presumptuous to say that the Eagles would have definitely beaten the Seahawks. I think they would have given them a run in a good year with not Kevin Petullo as offensive coordinator. But crazy. And by the way, Sam Darnold, the offense wasn't exactly chugging along. The passing offense wasn't exactly like inspiring a ton of confidence. You have a kicker who set the Super Bowl record for the most field goals in a game. You had a strong running game, and that defense is just absolutely killer. I mean, it feels in a lot of ways like the Legion of Boom 2.0, but it's a different system and it's a different scheme, but like, it was a damn good Seattle Seahawks team. They earned their way. You even look at who Seattle had to play. They earned that number one seed in the conference, which we all talked about was going to be critical. And then they had to take on two division rivals. And look, we all know that the 49ers were injured, beaten up, battered, probably didn't have a lot to give after taking down the Eagles. You got past a division rival. You never know what to expect when you play a division rival in the playoffs, by the way, even if there are injuries. They got past the 49ers. They took on a Rams team that, again, I would say if the Rams had gotten to the Super Bowl, the Rams would have won. Seahawks hit the Super Bowl, they would win. I do think that the Bears would have won. I think the non-zero chance the Packers could have won. I just don't think the Patriots were a good team. But Seattle earned their way and did so by beating two division rivals, two good teams. One injured, and then the Rams I think the Rams were a very, very good team. And Seahawks deserved to win. I don't think it was an inspiring game. I think one of the saddest things that can happen in sports is when you have a game that happens before the championship that ultimately is better than the championship itself. And I think we can all probably agree, Seahawks-Rams, better overall game than Seahawks-Pats, right? I don't even think it was close. So when you have that, it feels like anything's going to be a letdown at that point. And remember, it was a close game in the NFC Championship. It was only a 4-point game. That, to me, was a much better game than what we ended up getting on Super Bowl Sunday. And I think anytime that you don't see the two best teams in the sport going head-to-head, or at least the best team from each conference going head-to-head, it's going to feel like a letdown. I mean, you can look back to a year ago, right? It feels like much longer than a year ago, but you can look back at a year ago. When the Eagles took on the Chiefs, it was widely believed you had the two best teams in football, or the two hottest teams, certainly, in the playoffs at that point. You had Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and this dynasty just kind of spinning up, looked like a buzzsaw, had taken down the Eagles 2 years prior. And with the Eagles, you had a team that had discovered this incredible running game with Saquon Barkley on the team for the first year. It comes within, a decent game of setting the single season rushing record. You have that plus an unbelievable aerial attack, and you have this first-year coordinator, at least with the Eagles and Kellen Moore, and you start to wonder, what's this going to look like? And the game lived up to the hype insofar as going into the game, there was a ton of hype because it was a rematch of 2 years prior. The game itself was largely underwhelming. If you're a neutral fan watching Chiefs versus Eagles, you were like, holy shit, the Eagles curb stomped the Chiefs. And it never really felt like that game was going to get close. And, the Eagles put the backups in, and Nick Sirianni pulls Jalen Hurts and puts it in Studfeld. And you start to say to yourself, or was Kenny Pickett, not Studfeld, Kenny Pickett. And you go, this is pretty insane. And as an Eagles fan, you love that game. But to look back on it, it was a blowout. And then this game was largely a blowout. Patriots get a touchdown late. You start to think about it is there a path to coming back? Then they don't go for two. It's just a weird Super Bowl. It was largely underwhelming. I'm not here to watch just nonstop field goals. So again, you give the Seahawks credit. The Patriots just didn't belong there. I'll tell you what, the guy who's got to feel the worst today, it's not Jalen Hurts. It's nobody with the Eagles. The guy who has to feel like an absolute boob today is Josh Allen. This was such a winnable conference for the Bills. Should have been a winnable conference for the Bills. There's honestly no excuse for Buffalo to have not represented the AFC. And you know who probably feels the worst is Bo Nix. I mean, if Bo Nix doesn't hurt his ankle, I would tend to believe that the Broncos probably represent the AFC. And if the Broncos take on the Seahawks, we have a much better game. We have a much closer game. I don't know if the Broncos would have won. Maybe. But it would have certainly been a better Super Bowl. And instead, we're treated to a real mismatch. And it was about as much of a mismatch as I think a lot of us expected there to be going into this one. So a lot of teams, I think, are going to kind of look around, look at the landscape of their respective conferences and say, yo, we were like one or two small tweaks away from being able to actually like go to a Super Bowl and maybe win it. If you're in the NFC right now, you're looking at it saying to yourself, hey, if you're 49ers, we're a few injuries away from something going well. With the Rams, we're like 1-2 plays away from representing the NFC. Again, if you're the Eagles, you're going offensive line. Sure, health, not great. Play calling, offensive coordinator, real issues. They should be looking at this like a huge missed opportunity. I think I would actually be angrier today if I were Jeffrey Lurie or Howie Roseman looking at how things played out for the Eagles this year. And you see how the Super Bowl goes down and you go, yo, even with all of the faults and all the flaws that the Eagles had this year, this was a potential back-to-back. I said it in the beginning of the playoffs. I said it after the Eagles got eliminated. I feel it in my core today. The Eagles really should have gone deeper into this playoffs. And again, I don't know if they would have beaten Seattle in Seattle. Maybe, maybe not. But to get bounced by a depleted 49ers team, it just looks even worse now. And to see who you ultimately could have played in the Super Bowl, I mean, there are a lot of NFC teams that are probably licking their chops. If you're the AFC, you're starting to think about like, wow, I'll just point to this. In the history or in the modern era or whatever with the Super Bowl, I think it's only 4 quarterbacks in history have ever lost a Super Bowl and then come back to eventually win one. Jalen Hurts just happens to be one of those 4 quarterbacks. Drake May's young, and he's not a terrible quarterback. It seems like he's had the shoulder injury and like he just wasn't on his game. But like, if you're a Patriots fan, like that's not the kind of history you want to look at. That's not going to be a good feeling. So we will see, friends. Let me know what you think of the Super Bowl. We'll get to some of those comments. We are going to get into some Philly sports today. We're going to get into a little bit of Olympic talk as well. A couple of things that I have noted from the early part of the Olympics so far that I want to get to maybe a little bit later on in the show. We have Joel Embiid dominating the Suns and the fact that the Sixers look, kind of like what we've expected them to be without Paul George. And in a post-Jared McCain existence, they are certainly thin, but you're able to go toe-to-toe with the Suns, who are a good team out west. We'll take it. Obviously, the Flyers right now cannot hurt you. So if you're a Flyers fan out there, the good news is that they cannot hurt you for the next 2 odd weeks while we wait for them to come back and play hockey at the Xfinity Mobile Arena. First, they have 2 games on the road, I believe. So you have a little bit of time before you have to have the orange and black rip your heart out of your chest or tear the soul from your existence. Phillies haven't done anything of note. We just touched on the Eagles. So we'll probably do a little bit of Sixers here. I do want to tell you something else that was interesting that came out about the Eagles and about A.J. Brown. But I saw a comment that I did not expect today, and I want to make sure that we touch on this before we dive back into the Eagles here. And it was about the Philadelphia Union. I know it's crazy. But Connor Buss, 7320, asks, Russ, did you see the Union's leaked jersey? Drippin' or trippin'? First of all, I can't believe I just let those words escape my mouth at the same time in that order. I don't think I should ever say it again. I actually feel kind of gross for having said it. Now, that said, the Union leaked jersey is insane. I hope it's real. I do. Sometimes you have like a store puts out a jersey and you go, wait, did they accidentally just leak the jersey? I want everybody to take a look at this because this apparently was found at a Modell's at a Dick's in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. We're going to take a look at this really quick because I got to tell you, if this is what the Philadelphia Union roll out for the upcoming season is their primary jersey, I'm 100% in. I don't usually buy jerseys. I have not bought a jersey in a very, very long time. I think the last jersey that I got was from the Philadelphia Union when playing in one of the media games. But let's take a look at this for a sec. So you've got Benjamin Franklin right here, right? You've got different parts of the Constitution. Let's see. What else do we have? Or this is Declaration of Independence, I guess, right? And then down here, we have the We the People, right? I'm trying to see what some of the other stuff is over here. But the idea here is you've gone, it's the 250th anniversary of these United States of America. And if this Union leak is to be believed, then They're leaning all the way in on 1776, as much imagery as they can. I got to tell you, I think this looks pretty awesome. I think that this is fantastic. So, I mean, you guys can let me know if you like it or not, but here, we'll zoom in a little bit. Let me see if I can. I can't. Well, let's see. There we go. So here you go. So you have Beambo there. I think that's Independence Hall in the back. And then, as I was mentioning, you have Ben Franklin up here. Here you have July 4th, 1776. If this is real, and if this is the Philadelphia Union's primary jersey, primary kit for this season, they are going to sell the hell out of this jersey. They are going to sell an insane number of jerseys if this is the one that they rock and roll with. Now, if this turns out to be like a third jersey, which is usually where they have an alternate sponsor, they do like the Artisano or whatever. If they're going to do that, and this is the third jersey, this will still kill. If this is just like a random warm-up, they'll still sell a lot of these, but it won't be quite as much as, getting a game day jersey. You guys can let me know, though, in the comments what you think. Gimzak says that Union jersey is better than the Phillies Friday night jersey. Yeah, I mean, it's a million times better than the City Connect. Those are god-awful. Peter Tom Willis says that jersey is amping. Stop making me say stuff that I don't get. OGJH says, I'll buy the shit out of that Union jersey, and I don't follow the Union. That's what I think is so cool about it. I hope that they do it. I really do. Let's see. Connor Buss says, they're doing launch events for it this weekend. My wife hates it, but I can't wait to spend my money on it. I mean, I think it's pretty awesome. Genuinely, I do think it's awesome. All right, so there you go. We had a little bit of, we want to call it non-mainstream Philly sports talk. Just a little bit of Union. He doesn't hate talking about the Union a little bit, just a wee little bit. Now, I want to talk about the Eagles a little bit more here before we pivot off to the Sixers and the Olympics and everything else. So one of the things that I think we've all kind of had the opportunity to see now over the past week and a half since the Eagles hired Sean Mannion as their offensive coordinators, it feels like a lot of the scuttlebutt, a lot of the murmuring, a lot of the whispers behind the scenes, right, that eventually make their way out as reports from national media people, some local media people. It feels like a lot of the heat around A.J. Brown has kind of died down. It feels like a lot of the, it's a foregone conclusion that A.J. Brown will be dealt. It feels like that has changed. It feels like that has changed a lot since Sean Mannion took over. And, there was a report from this weekend, and I don't know if he published it publicly, so I want to be careful, I guess, before I say it. But there was a person who had a local profile, had local shows. Here we go. No, it's good. I knew that this got posted to Facebook. I didn't know if it got posted to Twitter or not. So Rob Motti, who has done stuff in the Philadelphia market and is now he works for the Associated Press, AP senior NFL writer, he put up a little video real quick. It's like a 3-second video, and that's not really what matters in all of this. But he kind of put up a personal anecdote about just interacting with Jalen Hurts at the Pro Bowl this year, at the flag football game, which I still don't fully understand. But this is what Rob Motti put up. Said, this was just one interaction with Jalen Hurts, but I noticed he had a different vibe this week. Teammates noticed it too. A couple guys told me they haven't seen him smiling and having fun like he did throughout the Pro Bowl games. He told me he's in a good place mentally. So I'm not looking to stir controversy here because I don't think that there's any controversy to be had. But I will simply note that, with Jalen Hurts, he was never going to flame Kevin Patullo. He's not going to publicly flame Nick Sirianni. He's not going to do it. But you do have to wonder if this kind of lightening of the load, if this, 800-pound gorilla, coming off of Jalen Hurts' back, if this is due in large part to the change in offensive coordinator, right? And so you have that. And then on the other side, you also have A.J. Brown. Because remember, at the end of the season, A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts were kind of back to speaking glowingly of one another, speaking well about one another. It seems like in the last week and a half, A.J. Brown has not softened his stance per se, but definitely seems to be in a better place headspace-wise, about changes in Philadelphia, right? And so he was over on, I think it was on Micah Parsons' podcast, and they did some kind of a live show, like on stage. And A.J. Brown kind of dove into how exactly he's feeling about Philadelphia, how he feels about being here, future, all that kind of stuff, and then about the change at offensive coordinator, moving on from Kevin Patullo. And I think that if you missed it, it is certainly worth, about 50 seconds of your time. So here's A.J. Brown, just kind of, the state of the union, we'll call it.
We just come back and just really watch the tape and just, like I said earlier, rediscover ourselves and go to work each and every day, being accountable and just taking one day at a time. We have great leaders in our locker room. I'm fortunate to be a part of that, especially on offense.
So that is him saying that he is a leader on the team. He is a leader on the offensive side of the ball, and that the Eagles are lucky to have a strong leadership core. Good. You want to hear that.
And we do have a lot of talent, but talent gets us nowhere.
Facts.
So it's all about being detailed and being disciplined.
Is there excitement with some of the new coaches y'all got in?
There's Micah Parsons. He actually made some headlines for another reason around the Eagles.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm always excited. Sometimes change is not a bad thing. I have the utmost respect for KP. He to me, he did a tremendous job, and he has a great heart. But I'm excited for the season. I'm excited for what's to come. So,
No, for sure. And, get into this.
So I got to be honest with you. And again, not stirring controversy here. I think A.J. Brown said a really nice thing about Kevin Patullo, and I don't believe any of it. Well, I believe that maybe he thinks Kevin Patullo has a good heart. I don't think that A.J. Brown is like losing sleep over the fact that Kevin Patullo is gone. I don't think that he's worried about his productivity. I don't think he's worried that he's not going to find the same level of success or a higher level of success under Sean Mannion. I cannot imagine that that's the case. I think it's nice that he said what he said. I think that it's like a lovely little clip. I think the best part of it is that it came before the Super Bowl. And so you kind of have this idea that, I don't know, make of it what you will. But I think this is just a star player trying to put the rumors to rest about him not wanting to be in Philadelphia. He's talking about next year. If he really wanted out, if he was dead set on kind of turfing things, nuking things, and then getting his way out, he could force his way out by saying something truly negative. He did not. I want to believe that this is a sign of good things to come. Now, there was another little bit of news that came out of this show, though, with Micah Parsons, and it was about whether or not Micah Parsons almost ended up in Philadelphia. Because if you remember, the Cowboys traded Micah Parsons to Green Bay, and in it, they included a poison pill, essentially preventing any future trade from the Packers to the Eagles of Micah Parsons. And so you think to yourself, like, listen, it was rumored at the time that the Eagles made a really aggressive offer, like a crazy aggressive offer, and that they almost couldn't believe that they didn't get Micah Parsons. Well, we might know why. Because Micah Parsons definitely believes it wasn't just picks going the other way. It was one of the biggest standout players on that Eagles defense.
Man, and I love them. I love the support. I love the accountability. I love everything else that they do.
This is A.J. Brown talking about Philly. It's going to lead to it.
It just Philly is Philly. You have to be there to understand. You from there, so you understand. Like,
here we go.
I'm from near Philly. I gotta claim my city every time because it gets conflicted too much, y'all.
You wanted to be an Eagle at one point.
Yo, we could get into that.
This is a thing that I don't think you say if you're A.J. Brown and you don't want to be a Philadelphia Eagle. He's messing with Micah Parsons. Let's get back to it.
You wanted to be an Eagle at one point.
Yo, we could get into that. Hold on.
You can hear it still there.
So to be honest with you, bro, it was very close.
Okay.
It was very close. Eagles before the Jalen Phillips, before all them, it was me.
Yeah.
It was me. Yeah. And
oh boy. He thinks it was close. Says before Jalen Phillips and those guys, it was him. Okay, go on, Micah. Tell us the tale of this trade that could have been.
I was really about to come, but there was one person that I had to play with that if he was gone, I did not want to be there, and that was Jalen Carter. Okay. They wanted a D tackle, and they wanted to trade me plus lead. But
now, I think there's one part of this that's really important to point out because I just cannot imagine that the Eagles were going to say, "Hell yeah, we'll trade you Jalen Carter." It doesn't make a ton of sense. If they had brought back Milton Williams, maybe it would have made sense to some extent. You still would have had like a big, beefy defensive tackle to put in there for Jalen Carter. I cannot envision a scenario where the Eagles were going to do a 1-for-1 swap of Jalen Carter for Micah Parsons. I can't really envision a scenario where either team would feel so moved by the spirit to include picks going either way. So what exactly does he mean that Jalen Carter wouldn't have been there? Micah Parsons wouldn't have wanted to be there without Jalen Carter. This is my assumption, and I could be wrong. Did Micah Parsons hear that the Cowboys said something to the effect of, we will only trade you to Philadelphia if Jalen Carter comes back, which leads Micah Parsons to then be like, well, then I don't want to go to Philadelphia. I mean, listen, unless Jalen Carter is such a head case and such a pain in the ass in the building that everyone can't help but try to like move him for any kind of value, I can't imagine that you would trade one of your most disruptive and important defensive players in Jalen Carter, even for a player of Micah Parsons' caliber. I don't see it. My assumption here is that Parsons was essentially told, we will only move you to Philadelphia if Jalen Carter's coming back. The Eagles at the same time could have probably been like, well, absolutely not. We'll trade you something, but it won't be Jalen Carter. And we also won't, we'll give you picks and a player. I don't know who that player could have been. We'll give you picks and a player and, again, go with God. Like, I don't know. I just don't see a scenario where the Eagles would have been the ones to be like, oh, yeah, we'll give you Jalen Carter. If the Eagles had offered Jalen Carter for Micah Parsons, Jalen Carter would be a Cowboy and Micah Parsons would be an Eagle. Like, I don't think there's any doubt, right? Because the Cowboys had already made up their mind. They were not going to keep Micah Parsons. Jalen Carter is a significantly better return than the Cowboys ultimately got from the Packers. So, make of that what you will. I see people in the comments saying, like Chris Freed here says, Davis or Carter is not getting re-signed, can't afford both. Salary cap's going up. They made the announcement about the salary cap going up, which gave me a little bit of hope because it felt like for a long time, Jordan Davis was like a foregone conclusion to be leaving. Nakobe Dean was a foregone conclusion to be leaving. If you're going to give teams more money to play with, I will give Howie Roseman the benefit of the doubt that if they want to have some of these guys back, they'll figure it out. I think a big reason that they let so many guys go last offseason, especially on the defensive side of the ball, was because they fully expected to be real competitors to keep the services, especially of Jordan Davis. I would be shocked if they let Jordan Davis leave. I think they're going to try to Godfather offer him. I could be wrong. If another team wants to come along and offer some unbelievably crooked number and the Eagles can't match it because of their cap situation, all right, fine. I think they're going to do whatever they can to keep Jordan Davis. Nakobe Dean, I think there's a good chance he'll be gone. They have Jahad Campbell. They essentially drafted his replacement. They re-signed Zach Bond last offseason, so I guess Dean is probably more likely to be gone. But if I'm the Eagles, man, like if I can keep Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter together for another 4, 5, 6 seasons, whatever it is, I'm doing whatever I can to keep it. Keep that duo together. All right, so there's your Eagles stuff. We had a moment about the Philadelphia Union. We touched on the Super Bowl. Can we just really quick, join me really quickly. Let's clap our hands, everybody, for Philadelphia 76ers. Stomp your feet, everybody. Hey, stomp your feet. I'm driving, Russ. Stomp your feet. But not if you're driving. Just put it in park real quick. Unless you're on a highway, then don't put it in park. Just stomp your feet in your mind. Remember like back during COVID, there were like the amusement parks in Japan, and they didn't want people yelling on roller coasters, so they said something to the effect of like, scream in the silence of your heart. I want you to like stomp your feet in the silence of your heart if you physically can't do it right now. Now 456 Yukon here says, I'm stomping, Russ. I'm stomping. I appreciate it. Okay. Here's where we're at. Okay. Joel Embiid has been on I don't know if I want to call it like a generational tear, but man, has he looked good. Now I get it. If we're going to be fair, and on this show, we try to be fair as much as we can and as often as we can. That game last Thursday against the Lakers was very frustrating. But we're going to look at the only game that has happened since Friday's show, which was a win in Phoenix over the Suns, a 6-point win, and it was a big one for the biggest player in the lineup for the Philadelphia 76ers. So Joel Embiid once again had himself a night. Now, he didn't shoot well from the field. He shot well from downtown. From the field, he was around 50%? 9 of 19 is a little bit under 50% from the field. 33 points to go with 9 rebounds, 3 assists, and a block. A big game out of the big man. The thing that was probably the most notable, he had the headband on, and apparently he thought that he was a sharpshooter from downtown. And to his credit, he made 4 of his 7 attempts from beyond the arc. So Embiid played his ass off. Again, the Sixers, it's only a 6-point win, but it was against a Suns team that I believe at that point entered the game at 30-22. The Sixers won, so they improved to 30-22. So you're kind of playing like a mirror image of yourself, at least in terms of record. So good on the Philadelphia 76ers going into Phoenix and getting a win. And like, ho-hum, Tyrese Maxey doesn't hit the 30-point threshold. He only has 29 points on the night. Oh boy. To go with 9 rebounds and 6 assists. And he also had a steal. Tyrese Maxey. Doing what Tyrese Maxey is supposed to do. Now, we have had some conversations on this show about Kelly Oubre kind of being like a steady force, continuing to be a steady force and a steady presence. He had 18 points on the night. The one guy that I would like to see more from, and this is just an in general thing, and I know we kind of go back and forth on how it's a roller coaster and it's a rookie season, and so you don't want to put too high of expectations on a player, but there are times that I would like to see a guy like VJ Edgecombe take more shots from the field. He only had 4 field goal attempts in the game in 25 minutes. Like, I would want VJ Edgecombe to feel more confident, more comfortable in getting his own shot, especially in the time that Paul George is out. While it's great that Kelly Oubre feels like he can go out there, jack up a bunch of shots, and again, he had an okay night from downtown, 3 of 7, right? I would still like to see a moment where VJ Edgecomb's like, all right, I'm going to eat. Paul George is out. We need a third scorer. The big guy's rolling. Tyrese Maxey's rolling. I'm going to get my shots. I'd like to see more than 4 field goal attempts in a game out of VJ Edgecombe, but that's just me. But the Sixers win, and it's a strong win, and it's a solid win. But man, you got to think about where Joel Embiid has been and where he's going. Okay, now I almost did a Kamala Harris, but I didn't. I almost said, you have to think about where he's going and where he has been. Joel Embiid is unburdened by what has been. He was out of his mind. He could not play basketball anymore. But now he's good. He had a knee procedure by a doctor who's incredible, and now he's an unbelievable player. Embiid over his last 7 games, 33.7 points per game, 8.1 rebounds per game, 5 assists per game, shooting 53.3% from the field, 51.9% from downtown. And he's doing all of that in nearly 35 minutes of action per game. This is exactly what the Philadelphia 76ers need out of Joel Embiid, and especially with Paul George out, you allow the big man to take as many shots within reason as he wants. He's been efficient. He's been an efficient scorer, and he's scoring at multiple levels. Now, do I want to see Joel Embiid every game attempting 7 3-pointers? I don't. No, I actually genuinely do not. I think it's actually a bad use of space. However, if he's feeling it, okay, it's fine. What you don't want to have is like one of those nights where Embiid goes 0 for 5 from downtown. You're like, yo, big man, just like, go park it on the block. Use your size and dominate the opposition. He looks, we say this every show now at this point, but he looks physically better than he has in years. And it really doesn't matter who they line up across from him. He has been getting his. Now, I will be interested to see what happens tonight because they're going to play against a Portland Trailblazers team that is kind of a mess. A Portland Trailblazers team that has won 2 in a row. Both of those games against the Grizzlies, who are kind of an abject failure. But they're going to take on the Trailblazers tonight. We'll see how it goes. I got to think that the Sixers are going to be able to keep the momentum going after the Suns win. I know that sometimes they have letdown games. The one thing that you don't want is for this to be a trap game because it would be really easy to look past Portland and look at Wednesday because Wednesday night, I believe, is a nationally televised game. They're going to host the Knicks. And we know that the Knicks are very much in their feelings and very much in their own heads, right? We've talked a lot about the Knicks of late. the Knicks going into the trade deadline, we're starting to kind of turn things back around. We're starting to feel good. But remember, like 2 weeks out from the deadline, there were all the rumors swirling about Giannis. Now, the Knicks won their last game. They're 9-1 in their last 10. That's going to be a hell of a matchup. That'll be a hell of a game. And we'll see if the Sixers, can continue their winning ways. And if they can, well, then you have two of the best teams in the Eastern Conference going head to head. Now, why do I say two of the best if the Sixers are the 6th seed in the conference? Well, because I don't believe in the Cleveland Cavaliers who decided to trade Darius Garland for James Harden. I don't really believe in the Raptors. And that's probably it. I mean, the Celtics are having a good year. They're having a much better year than expected. Do the Celtics currently scare me that much? No. Will they in a playoff series? Of course. But I think even if you're a top 4 team, because I'm going to rule out the Cavs, I'm going to rule out the Raptors. If you're a top 4 team, talent-wise, well, then I have to think that that's two of the best teams in the Eastern Conference going head-to-head. So there you go. What is this? Amadeo says, that's the chaos statement I need. I don't even know what the chaos statement was. That they're one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference? I don't say that. I don't think that's chaos. I think that's fair. Now, that's the Sixers. Sixers are in a good spot. I mean, yeah. Jared McCain's gone. Yeah, they kind of created the locker room morale. They don't have a lot of depth at guard now. Sure. I gotta tell you, I'm feeling pretty good about the Philadelphia 76ers right now. Amadeo's going to clip that, and 2 weeks from now, when the Sixers have fallen on their face and are out of the playoffs, he's gonna throw that one right back at me. Nick Abe asks, Bryce Harper or Joel Embiid? Well, it's a good question. If I told you that I think that they're a lot more alike than people want to give them credit for, does that make you feel good or bad? Because I could make a case very easily. Has Bryce Harper carried the Phillies to a World Series? Yes, he has. He's carried them to a World Series. Did they win the championship? No. There are some people who would note that Harper left the Nationals and then the Nationals turned around and won the World Series. Coincidence? I would tend to think so, but there are some who argue that maybe not as much of a coincidence as you think. Embiid has never gone very deep into the playoffs. So on merit, on playoff performance, you have to say Bryce Harper has been more impactful than Joel Embiid. But in terms of actual talent and where they are relative to players in their respective sports, they've both been an MVP. I would still say that Bryce Harper is a better player, right? I think that Bryce Harper on the whole has reached the pinnacle more seasons than Embiid has in terms of individual skill. Embiid's MVP season was fantastic. He had a few other seasons where he was kind of knocking on the door of MVP, but he's probably top 3, top 5. There are people who will say that, Harper very clearly has more of a motor and has more of a winning mentality than Joel Embiid. A lot of people think that Embiid's soft. I look at a guy who's played through as many injuries as Embiid has, and I think it's actually kind of insane to think that Embiid's not a winner or not a guy who has a winning mentality. I think they're a lot more alike than people think. So you don't get an answer out of me, Nick Abe. I think they're just very similar. Amadeo says, when you say they're one of the best, that was the thing. All right, there we go. Nick Abe says 2 Hall of Famers. I think they're both Hall of Famers. Even if Embiid, he looks a lot healthier now. I hope that Embiid has 3 more relatively good, healthy years left, and that will solidify a Hall of Fame spot for him. I think he'll make it no matter what, but we'll see. Let's see. Andrew Fawcett's here. Says, greetings all. Glad to finally join live. Andrew, great to have you out there in Texas. Let's see. Havokin says, in 22, the Phillies bench was just magic till the World Series, and it has been so ever since. Oh, the bench has been so ever since. Man, I can't read today. I don't think I can read. Let's see. Ford's here. Ford says the Sixers, they are at the 6th seed, and they probably won't surpass Cleveland or Toronto. Maybe Toronto. Otherwise, you don't get to Boston in the first round. I like the hedging that Ford did in that. They probably won't surpass Cleveland or Toronto. Maybe Toronto. They're not saying they're going to surpass them, but they might. But they also might not. But they might. You never know. And then I can come back and say, well, I said that they could get past Toronto, but also they may not get past Toronto. All right. Nick Abe says, without Jason Tatum, take that every day of the week. See, I don't know. That's. There's just something I think mentally about taking on the Celtics in the playoffs that probably gives the Sixers a little bit of PTSD. Yo, by the way, before we get to the Olympic takeaways, can we just have a moment here on the show? I may regret having this conversation, but we'll do it anyway. The halftime show. Okay. Can we have a second here with the halftime show? I'm upset. Okay. I was told that Bad Bunny would wear a dress, and I was told that Bad Bunny was going to have a lot of very potentially problematic imagery, depending on what you define as problematic. And I watched the halftime show on my phone. I did. I typically I'm not a fan of halftime shows and our little kids. And I go, if it's a relatively wholesome halftime show, you get to watch the halftime show. And if it's not, then you don't. And listen, last year, I was a big fan of the Kendrick Lamar halftime show. A lot of people weren't. Many people weren't. I liked the Kendrick Lamar halftime show last year. I did. Bad Bunny's is a little bit not problematic. It's a little bit confusing to me, okay? So I'm just an idiot, right? I go into the halftime show expecting one thing from Bad Bunny because I've seen plenty of clips of Bad Bunny in his concerts, and the imagery in the concerts did not exactly align with the imagery of the halftime show. Now, I will say that there are a decent number of people in my we'll say family circle, not as many in the friend circle, but in the family circle, there are definitely some people who were very much of the opinion that this was going to be debauchery and horrible imagery and yada, yada. I will tell you that the theme throughout the halftime show was actually pretty good, right? There's the whole idea of these two people falling in love. Bad Bunny hands the ring off to the guy. He proposes to the girl. Eventually, they get married. There's the wedding reception is a whole part of it. And I gotta tell you, I thought that on the whole, the halftime show was okay. The part that I loved, I will give this. Lady Gaga showing up was unexpected. Unless you were looking at prediction markets, there was somebody who very much appears to have known everything about what was going to happen in the halftime show, and they apparently made a lot of money predicting who was going to show up and who was not going to show up. But Lady Gaga was fantastic. I liked the whole wedding reception part of the show. And then eventually Ricky Martin shows up. Now listen, I know Ricky Martin's gone through a lot, all right? I certainly remember living La Vida Loca, Ricky Martin, with the frosted tip hair. I remember. Yo, Ricky Martin pulling up on a plastic chair and singing his heart out. Stud. Legit stud. Good job, Ricky Martin. Now, Amadeo here points this out, by the way, says it was actually a real marriage. That was the thing that was going around as well, is that apparently this couple invited Bad Bunny to their wedding. And so he was like, well, you can just come to the halftime show and you can get married at halftime. Now, I have logistical questions, all right? I just happen to be somebody who doesn't fully understand how you might have been able to to swing a wedding that fast. You know, in Pennsylvania, you could get a Quaker license. Did you know this? In Pennsylvania, you can get a Quaker license, which is essentially you go to the state, you go to the courthouse or whatever, and you say, we are married. And that's it. And you need two people to sign as witnesses, and you're married. Congratulations. Good job, everybody. No ceremony. You're great. I don't think that exists in California. I also don't think that they could have speed read the wedding fast enough for that to be the actual wedding. However, if they already went to the courthouse and got married and then on screen, that was their real marriage, I gotta say, it was a nice story. I liked the story. Now, I will also point out if people, are kind of wondering. If you happen to like attractive people, maybe you like attractive women, maybe you like attractive men, I will say that the people at the Bad Bunny halftime show, a lot of good-looking people. So if you were just, kind of on the fence about it, if you're good, a lot of very, very good-looking people having a lot of fun. Also interesting, we saw like celebrity cameos in the background of one of the scenes, a lot of dancing going on in front, and then there's like kind of like an overhang, and underneath was Pedro Pascal. I think I saw Jessica Alba. Cardi B was there. Cardi B also apparently split up with Stephon Diggs at halftime. That was a whole thing. You can go down the rabbit hole on Twitter. They unfollowed each other, and they both like said mean things to each other on Instagram, and now they don't follow each other anymore. But a lot of cameos, and they didn't zoom in on the people, which I thought was also interesting. Now, if you want to know what my thoughts on the Turning Point USA halftime show is, I didn't watch it. I haven't watched it yet. Will I watch it? I don't know. Probably not, but maybe. I don't know. I have like not an affinity for Kid Rock, but like Kid Rock did some songs back in the day that were featured on pro wrestling stuff. So I guess there's always going to be part of me that, can rock with a Kid Rock song or two. I did get a text though, because apparently somebody played cello at the alternative halftime show, and I said, "Yo, Kid Rock played cello?" And they're like, "No." And I said, "Well, if Kid Rock can play cello, he now officially is adult rock. Has to be if he's playing the cello and playing it at a halftime show." So I have not watched it yet. If you were here for my breakdown of that halftime show, I don't have it for you. What else? I think it's it on the halftime show. It was good. It's fine. Perfectly fine. Am I going to show it to my kids? No. But I did like the Latin jazz in the middle. Thought that part was nice. One of the scariest things, hold on, before I move off this totally, I think that by now everybody has seen this, but in case you didn't, they had the whole thing, right? Like they had it where it looked like the sugarcane fields, right, to start. And then throughout the halftime show, it looked like they kind of like, moved where things are, right? And it takes up most of the football field. I got to show you something that scared the hell out of me. I honestly could not believe that this was real, but it was. So if you happen to watch the halftime show, what you will have undoubtedly seen at this point is that it wasn't real sugar cane. It wasn't real grass. It was people. They were people. That sugar cane grass is people. I'm like watching the halftime show. I'm watching Bad Bunny kind of like go up and down these rows and around and everything. And I'm like, wow, that's impressive. How the hell did they set that up so fast? It was people. There were people dressed as grass and sugar cane. It's incredible. It honestly kind of blew my mind. I'll be honest. I thought it was really cool. So there you go. Now, one thing that I do want to, I guess, kind of, here we go. Here you go. This is an image. It looks like maybe some of it was already set. All right, here we go. Here's an image to just show you. It does look like some of it was actual, grass and sugar cane. But like, just follow me on this, okay? Just follow me. Follow me into the pits of despair or whatever. So here's an image as the people were coming out. Like I just showed you the video of people coming down the tunnel. So over here, we've got people dressed as grass. And then here you can see these like stage pieces. I don't think these are people, but I could be wrong. I think this is just like, this is all set up. And then these people just kind of moved around. But anyway, like still, that's incredible. The imagery was really cool. So make of it what you will. Okay. Also, nice message at the very end. Nice message on the big board. Nice message on the football. Good job. Okay. I will tell you, the one thing that I find funny about Bad Bunny's halftime performance is not the people who are like, this is a Spanish-speaking performer, except for Lady Gaga. It's all in Spanish. I don't know what to do. Did somebody hit the button on the remote to turn it in Spanish? What's happening here? His name is Bad Bunny. That's English. It's not Conejo Malo. So, like, what's going on here? I'm really worried about it. What do we do? Where's El Conejito Malo? I don't understand what's going on. It wasn't those people. The thing I found the funniest is all of the Spanish-speaking people who said, we also don't know what the hell he's saying. See, I speak Spanish, right? My Spanish is very different. Bad Bunny's Spanish apparently isn't very Spanish to a lot of Spanish speakers either. There's a ton of slang. There's a lot of mumbling. I don't like mumbling. I don't like mumbling in English either. A lot of mumbling. But it was funny today to watch a combination. It's like if we could take the GIF or the meme of like the two hands shaking, right? you had like people offended that the halftime show was in Spanish, and then Spanish-speaking people offended by whatever kind of Spanish Bad Bunny was apparently using. It was kind of a funny moment on Twitter. You can go check it out. You'll go find it. And here you go. Pat X says, I don't know anything about Bad Bunny. I could care less. But imagine being triggered more over a halftime show than the Epstein files or grocery prices. People are morons. I understand every time, every year, that we don't have like a traditional rock band. There is always going to be a segment of the audience that's going to think that we're getting Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson 2.0. I get it. I understand the idea that like the halftime show is supposed to be, you know, quote unquote family friendly, and that Kendrick Lamar last year was not family friendly, and that Bad Bunny wasn't going to be family friendly. And like, look, if you don't like twerking, the first like 2.5 minutes of the halftime show were certainly not for you. And if you think twerking is wildly inappropriate, you should not show the first 2.5 minutes to your kids. But then there are parts of it where you go, I mean, I'm a big jazz fan, right? And I like Latin jazz. So like the Lady Gaga part hit me in the soul, right? I get why people get worried about, you know, what imagery is going to be shown. That's why I always say, if you're worried about what's going to happen, then don't show it live. Watch it on your own, and then you can show it to your kids later if you're really that worried about it. That's it. Let's see. Amadeo said they should have brought out Damian Priest. Need to settle the score. There was something really funny that I actually did like and that I legitimately cackled at. So Logan Paul, before the halftime show, like before the Super Bowl kicked off, he was like on a red carpet or something, and they're like, hey, are you excited for the halftime show? And he said no. And then Jake Paul tweeted something out about like, you should turn off the Super Bowl. And then Logan Paul quote tweeted, and it was like, I love my brother, but I disagree with this. All that kind of stuff. The funniest thing that could have happened would have been for Bad Bunny to wrap up the Super Bowl. And right as they're about to go off air, Logan Paul runs up behind Bad Bunny with a steel chair and whacks him on the back. And then as Bad Bunny's laying on the ground writhing in pain, Logan Paul picks up the headset and says, I'll see you at WrestleMania, bitch. And then throws it down. That would have been incredible. That would have been next level. I think that a lot of people would have been very confused. But Bad Bunny versus Logan Paul, I could get behind that at a premium live event. It could be a lot of fun. So anyway. Okay. Last thing, the Olympics. So I felt really bad this weekend. I'm trying to watch some of the Olympics live, and it really depends on the time of day. And there are certain things that I'm watching with the family on Peacock live, and then some stuff that Steve Yard and we watched later on in the day. Like the backflip, the 1 foot landing on the backflip by the U.S. ice skater. That dude's insane. I don't know how you do it. I know that it was banned years ago, and somebody did it, and they got disqualified and all that. It's an incredible move. But I got to tell you, Lindsey Vonn, to me, was like, I felt so bad on so many levels. So she tore her ACL like 9 or 10 days or whatever before competing at her final, I don't know if you call it like a warm-up, right? Like it's an actual competition. But she tore her ACL. And then for about a week, we saw these videos of Lindsey Vonn prepping, like getting ready to go out and compete in what will, I mean, I would assume would have been her final Winter Olympics. And at age 41, was she going to be able to bring home a medal? Could she bring home a gold? Her training regimen is like unbelievable. And when you watch these videos of her training and preparing her knee, especially with a torn ACL, and you think about, I mean, like, listen, I'm an idiot, right? So I don't know what physical toll downhill skiing takes, but just based on what I've seen, me thinks that it's not great on the joints and that the amount of impact that she was going to have on that knee probably wasn't going to be sustainable. But man, like she crashed, and I'm not going to show the crash here on the show because NBC will like, you know, get my whole channel revoked or whatever. But like watching her crash was so sad because it felt like an ultimate American story. Somebody gets knocked down. How do you pick yourself up? You pick yourself up, you work your ass off, you show why you work so hard, you show why you train so hard, and you go out there and you kind of like, you do the thing that no one thinks you have the ability to do, that no one thinks any human should have the ability to do. And you go out and you compete. And like, does she land on the podium? Does she get a medal? Does she somehow win gold? You know, maybe, maybe not. But the crash was brutal to watch. And the commentary crew, right? Like you always think about how different the commentary crews are from event to event, and the yelp that that one of the announcers let out when Lindsey Vonn crashed. I mean, it was a human moment. You don't usually hear it. In fairness, like you don't typically hear that from a commentary crew, but there's just this, not like the hope of a nation just kind of like evaporates in a moment, but you watch the crash and you feel terrible on a human level. There she was, tore her ACL, worked her ass off, and it looked like she clipped the gate. There's an image out there of her arm clipping the gate, and then there's another one where it looks like I don't know terminology, right? Her pole, I guess the tip of the pole hit the gate as well, and that might have been what threw her fully off balance and led to the crash. But it was just really sad. I mean, I thought it was a real bummer. It sucks. Feel horrible for her, and we obviously wish her a speedy recovery. I'm sure it could have been worse. She had a fracture in her leg. It certainly could have been worse. Looked like it could have been worse. It's a shame to have to go out like that. It's a shame for her career to kind of have to end like that, but she worked hard. There are other Americans that are also working hard, though, at these Olympics. And if you have not gotten in on mixed curling to this point, I remember seeing somewhere in the comments earlier in the show, somebody dropped something in about mixed curling. Yeah, I got to tell you, I don't know if I've ever been as excited and hyped as I am each and every day I have the opportunity to watch the mixed curling team from the U.S. There was a play late in this game, and again, I'm a total jamoke and a dope, and I don't really fully understand curling, right? But AJ asked, please talk about the mixed doubles curling, Corey and Corey going for gold tomorrow. There's a play late in this last matchup where the U.S. goes to, I don't know the terms, right? There's a thing. It looks like an iron on a rock. And he starts scrubbing away at the ice and picks up speed, right? The stone is picking up speed. And it's like a triple shot. He hits the first red stone, which then ricochets and hits another one out. And then it continues on and hits the other one. So he knocks all three of the red stones out. It's incredible. I mean, again, I have no idea what I'm watching, but I know that you want to have more stones on the target than the other team, and you preferably would like it in the middle. It's an incredible play. Mixed curling, the sport that no one knew they needed. Every Winter Olympics, it feels like we all rediscover curling and how fun curling is and how goofy curling is. But yo, I know everybody likes to make the joke. Well, if there's one sport that I can do, I think I would have an opportunity to play curling. I think I could be a good curler at this point in my life. No. Most of us who think that we could play curling or could do curling or could curl or whatever, we would fall on our ass as soon as we step on the ice. Like, let's be real here. Got to watch the footwork. Got to watch the scrubbing. Here's the Team USA. Hope they could win the gold. We can come back here on Wednesday and talk about, hopefully, a gold medal in curling. By the way, the figure skating team event, getting a gold. And again, U.S. skater does a backflip in his routine. Absolutely insane. Lovely stuff. I like the Olympics. I hope you're enjoying the Olympics. And if you're a men's hockey fan, obviously the women's hockey has been going on. Men's hockey starts on Wednesday. And I feel like that is going to almost be like an unofficial moment where it feels like the Olympics really ramp up. I do. I think that, like, for a lot of people, yes, you can get into curling. Yes, you can get into downhill skiing. Yes, you can get into speed skating. You can get into, like, the hell's the one thing where they shoot, like, cross-country skiing, and then they, like, take out the rifles and shoot the targets. There is something very special about seeing the NHL's best and some of the best from around the world go out and play hockey at the Olympics. I feel like that's when things are really going to ramp up. So we'll see. Now, I will be back on Wednesday. Don't forget, on Wednesday, we got two things going on. We got the Russ Joy Show, and then after that, 6 o'clock down in Bordentown, New Jersey, or up in Bordentown? It's near Trenton. Up in Bordentown, New Jersey, we're doing Snow the Goalie Radio on WBCB and on all the Snow the Goalie accounts. Come talk some puck. Can watch, I guess, some of the first games of the men's hockey tournament as well. So on Wednesday, kind of have like a double dose of yours truly. Russ Joy Show in the afternoon, Snow the Goalie Radio at 6 o'clock in Bordentown at Chickies and Pete's. So, I will be back on Wednesday. Until then, I ask you very kindly, I ask you humbly, subscribe to the show. We are 37 subscribers away from 2,000. I know that there are people out there who watch virtually every episode of this show and don't have a YouTube account. Can you please, for the love of all good things in this world, create a Gmail account, subscribe to the show. I don't care if you set notifications or not. I would just like to get to 2,000 because it feels like an arbitrary number that would be fun. 37 subscribers away. 37. That's it. 37 subscribers. If you want to set the notifications, you can. If you don't want to set the notifications, you don't have to. 37 subscriptions away. 37 subscribers away. Costs you nothing. Nothing but a little bit of time in your day. So I will leave that to the people. Hopefully by Wednesday we'll be at 2,000. So until then, you can find the show on your favorite podcast app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. You can, of course, find short-form content of this here program over on Instagram and on YouTube and Facebook and TikTok. Go subscribe to all those places and follow those accounts as well. Hit those clips with a like if you can. Even comment on one or two. You never know. There are definitely some people over on TikTok who don't watch the show on YouTube and they only consume the content on TikTok, and I think it's really funny. But you can go interact with those people too. It's kind of like having an extended family or something. So, all right. Till Wednesday, this has been the Russ Joy Show, and I've been Russ Joy, but you knew that already because you're smart, and it's also the name of the show. Have a marvelous Monday, and I'll talk to you on a wonderful Wednesday here on the Russ Joy Show. Bye now.